Hi, everyone. In today's Jumpstart Lightning talk, we will have Philipp to talk about how Azure Arc can make managing Kubernetes on the edge like child's play, literally. Stay tuned. Hi, everyone. So today in Jumpstart Lightning session, we have Philipp to talk about an awesome project that he did with Azure Arc. So, hey, Philipp, thanks for coming to the show.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Yeah, so Philipp, tell us, who you are, what is it that you do, and let's talk about, the cool stuff that you've been working on with Azure Arc.
Sure. Yeah. So my name is Philipp Weckerle. I'm based in Austria, in Vienna, and I'm a cloud solution architect at Microsoft. So as a cloud solution architect, what I try to do, to best of my abilities, to kind of bridge the gap between what customers want to do and what Azure has to offer. And personally, I'm a kind of a techie person, so I rather than being book smart, I try to get my hands dirty with new stuff. And sometimes it's easy to kind of do stuff and play around with it, and with things like Arc, which is a bigger kind of scope. I usually come up with ideas of saying, okay, how can I have a longer lasting experience if I want, where I can play around and do stuff with it.
I mean, I love to talk to people that are actually getting their hands dirty with technology. And like I said, they're not book smart, even though that's important as well. But I think that, when you're starting to actually nerd out on stuff, that's really where the magic happens. And I think that in, what you will show the audience today in the project that you did, that's really a great example to how to nerd out with something that you were never thought that this is something that someone will actually do. So, so tell the audience a bit about the project that you did. What's the name? What was the motivation around that? What is it that you did?
Yeah, the idea was really to get my hands dirty on Azure Arc and all the new things that are coming and were announced and built just a couple of weeks ago. And so I went to YouTube, watched a couple of videos, and then I saw a video with you and Scott Hanselman, and you proudly showed your little Raspberry Pi clusters of with Arc, and I said, well, oh yeah, right. And my thought was, well, challenge accepted. So let's think what else can be done, because honestly, while it was nice, the case was kind of boring. So what I figured is, well, let's have some kind of more visual way of doing remote or edge computing. So I figured, what is more edge than a truck, a mobile data center, if you want.
That's insane.
And I had obviously two options, right? I could go submersible, but that was a bit too risky. So anyway, Microsoft already has the submerged data center. So I figured, let's have a truck that goes around and shows how
and you had a cool name to kind of call it, right? What's the name that you gave this project?
Yeah, it's the Monster Truck, TRARC.
That's super cool. And I think that now you have a problem because we changed the logo, and now you also need to change the logo.
Yeah, that was funny, because I actually literally stuck the labels on there, and then a couple of days later the new logo came around. But since everything on the truck is self-made, I can easily cut new logos, so that's not a problem.
So, tell me something. I mean, what was the motivation around, doing this type of project specifically with Azure Arc? Like, what got you into, doing this? I mean, I know all about kind of taking something and try to knock it out, but really this is,
Yeah, so literally it was kind of trying to marry the technical aspects of playing around with Arc and trying to figure out what it can do and what it can be used for, and making it a bit more visual for customers even. And obviously you could deploy virtual machines in Azure and play around with Arc that way, but that was way too boring. Also, I figured edge computing, right? There needs to be an edge somewhere to compute. So that's why I figured that might be the nicest and most visual way of actually showing literally what Arc is and what it can do there. So that's why I went with the Raspberry Pi, or the it's actually not only a Raspberry Pi cluster. We'll get to that in a second.
Yeah.
And then, as I said, the cases you guys used were nice, are pretty boring. So I figured, let's go with a more fun case. And literally, the Lego truck is, yeah, the Lego truck is a case, nothing else.
Yeah. So I mean, there's nothing like coming and have a guest on the show that tells me that the things that I do, can be boring to some people. It's all good. It's all love. I appreciate it a lot, because I love when people are taking it to the next level. I mean, when I did the Pi project, it started with something like an idea that someone else has, and now you're like, I think it's cool. I mean, it shows the evolution of
Definitely.
how us architects think about things and how we want to present stuff. So tell me something, Philip. Like, do you mind maybe share with the audience a bit about the bill of materials? What is it that you did? What was the process around that? And also, if I may ask, how much did it cost, really?
Yeah, we can get to that. So, literally, what I built was, I started off with the same idea you guys had, with like a cluster of reasonably affordable machines, Raspberry Pis and actually Rock Pis, which are the equivalent, but on Intel or AMD based architecture. But then I thought to myself, if I go with truck, it's literally a self-contained entity. So my goal was kind of an umbilical cord for the truck, which has power and networking. Plugged it in, and everything else is self-contained. So inside the truck, there's actually a whole networking infrastructure. There is firewalling, there is power conversion, etc. So if you look at the X-ray picture on the left-hand side, it's really the power conversion, because obviously I wanted to be not too sophisticated. So I went with 5 volts equipment. The Raspberries run off USB, and even the firewall and the switch that I have both run on 5 volts. So I could easily do a down conversion from line power to 5 volts, and then power everything off that 5 volts.
That's crazy.
And then from a networking perspective, literally it's a firewall. So the cluster I have right now is hooked up to public internet at the moment through a firewall, a small firewall router, and then does internal network distribution to the nodes in the cluster. So it is a little data center, if you want.
I mean, it's insane. I mean, I'm super impressed. But how much did it cost? Like, you gotta share that with us. Like, what?
Yeah.
So
it's actually, it's not that big of a deal. So I think the Raspberries were kind of existing equipment. So I want to say just the hardware was about $300, possibly. That's in that price range, because I actually have 3 Raspberries and 1 Rock Pi, as I mentioned, and Rock Pi is comparatively more expensive than Raspberry. It's about twice the price of a Raspberry, but it's Intel based. So I have 2 platform architectures in the cluster even. The most expensive part was actually the Lego truck. So, and that the case is actually price-wise, I think it's significantly more expensive than the hardware inside. So maybe 1.5 times the hardware is just the case. So,
well, I'm sure your manager will love if you will expense it. I mean, it's
I'm still negotiating that part.
So tell me something, Philip, to kind of maybe wrap things up. I know that you also use the Jumpstart project as kind of a motivation to some of the things. Like, can you share with the audience a bit, like, what is it that was about the Jumpstart project that made you kind of look at things?
So the Jumpstart really helped to get kind of stuff off the ground, right? Because I'm using micro Kubernetes as the Kubernetes distribution, and obviously kind of trying to figure out how to set it up, how to configure it with Arc myself would have taken a bit of time. With the Jumpstart kit, it was like a snap. So literally setting up the nodes and getting the thing to work was a matter of half a weekend. Then doing all the cabling and making sure it fits the form factor of the trailer, that took the same amount of time than setting up the hardware. And definitely the Jumpstart itself, because it has these different scenarios that give you an idea of what you can do with Arc, has been and will be my source to go if I need some in-depth information about it.
That's super cool. And we love that the project started as a community-driven project, and we love to see people coming from the community and actually leveraging that to their crazy ideas and the things that they want to do with Arc. We heard some amazing stories, but this one really is an impressive one because of the I want to say the innovative approach that you took around building this type of scenario. So Philip, really, before we kind of wrapping up, can you maybe share with the audience where they can find you? We're also going to share links to the project. You created a few blog posts on LinkedIn, but where do people can find you and talk to you about this type of stuff?
Yeah, so the easiest way to get me is on LinkedIn or Twitter, or email, obviously. But everybody knows email is kind of a not necessarily time sensitive, time critical communication channel. So the best way to contact me actually is via LinkedIn. There you also find the articles that I created on Monster Truck, and there's 2 or 3 articles still to come with the next couple of points that I'm gonna try and implement in the truck. And there's also a couple of other articles with other Azure technologies that I had not as elaborate projects, but some kind of hands-on projects with other technologies as well.
Well, I'm sure that once we will be able to get on the road again, you will do a roadshow with with the truck. I think it totally makes sense. You might not be able to drive it, but you might be able to present it. So I think
definitely,
I think it's cool.
That's
so. We will share the your LinkedIn post in the description below, and so it's all good. And I appreciate you coming to the Jumpstart Lightning show. And
sure.
For you, everyone, if you want to see more of these Jumpstart Lightning and also the demos that we have in the YouTube channel, please subscribe to the channel so you will know when we are releasing a new episode and new demos. And watch out for the Jumpstart project and all the scenarios that we're building for you. Thank you, Philipp, for taking the time, and we will see you next time. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.